Just make a note. Skip forward to 10 minutes roughly. Hello, Watem here, and welcome once again to Higurashi When They Cry. It has been a while. However, you might recognize this screen. It's a bit different from when I last played it, because there's been some updates to the mod. But this is actually a choice. I think last time, like after the thing, I picked the other choice and skipped a bit, and it seemed like it was the same thing, so I decided not to do it. But apparently there is a difference by picking a different option. Let me just see. That was 3 years ago. It has been a while. Yeah. Without any further ado, let's pick this other choice. At that time, I became aware of Keiichi's gaze. Oh, that's right. I was skipping forwards. Have the voices back. Keiichi's growl resounded from the pits of his stomach. What a delightful sound. It was like he wanted to rip me apart.
ようやくお目覚め？私、さっき嘘をついたね。シオンを一番むごたらしく殺してやろうと思って閉じ込めておいたけど、まだ思いつかないって言ったやつ。
Yeah, you haven't looked her up at all. Or, no. I think this was in the other choice as well, but, it's, like, she already had the idea.
あれが嘘。
I smiled menacingly as I laid out the huge nails and hammer, specially made for the nail table.
あの子に自分のせいで死ぬ大勢の人の悲鳴をたっぷりと聞かせて、体の芯まで染み通らせてから殺すの。なかなかセンスいいでしょ？
お前は誰だ？
は？ミオンでしょ？園崎ミオン。恐怖で頭が変になっちゃった？
This was the same as well, I think. But I think that might be why I thought it was the same and decided not to think too much about it. I'm guessing any differences happen somewhat after this point?
違うな。
It says you're a demon.
お前が園崎ミオンであるはずがない。
My hand stopped dead in its tracks. Kei-chan? Yeah. I decided it would be too late once we reached Shion's cell. So the name-guessing game is already over. Oh well, whatever. Bring it on. I will listen to you. This is your last chance.
へえ。じゃあ、私がミオンじゃなかったら、私は誰なわけ？
Come on, Kei-chan. Guess who I am. Try and save Mion, the girl who fell in love with you. And then, I heard it. I most definitely heard it. Keiichi's mouth trembled as he spoke the words, yet his eyes shone with a strong conviction. And he spoke the truth. Oh?
シオンだが。
Oh. Okay, so it is different. Wow. You're right. You actually won. You're amazing, Kei-chan. A strange feeling fills my chest as I shiver. I'd convinced myself there was no way he could guess. But he did, and I couldn't help feeling a bit surprised. This Keiichi had yet again pierced through my disguise.
お前はミオンじゃない。さっきまで一緒だったミオンを返せ。
Who are you?
え？
You aren't Mion, right?
え？だから私、ミオン。
No, that's not it. That's not what I meant. You aren't Mion.
どうして私がお姉じゃないって思うんですか？
I don't know. Just a feeling. In my mind, memories of the time Keiichi recognized me at the toy store had been revived. Yes. Even back then, Keiichi could tell that I wasn't my sister Shion. I had feigned composure and offered a comeback with a straight face, but on the inside I was shook. We were both capable of becoming Mion or Shion, but because I was the real Mion, and the only Shion legally and was only Shion legally on paper, reversing the rules was even more easier for me. Our tones of speech, quirks, and even our auras. We had both mastered each other's habits so perfectly, even our own parents were unable to tell us apart. In fact, wasn't that exceptionally sharp Renna not able to figure out I wasn't her best friend Mion after all, despite being so close? So why? Has this Keiichi actually seen through my disguise twice?
どうして私がお姉じゃないって思うんですか?
My ears perked up, eager to hear the answer. Keiichi's reply was a soft murmur, like an insect's whisper, as he gasped for breath and pain. His voice was so quiet, it was nearly inaudible, but I could almost recognize the words on his lips. Yes, just a feeling, he says.
へえ。
Yet again, it was just a feeling. Didn't he say the exact same thing to me that time at the toy store? How nice, how nice. What a splendid answer. You'd think why my sister of all people fell in love with him. However, no. Rather, it was exactly because of this. Along with my raving madness, the blood that was simmering in my veins until just now rapidly began to turn chill and coagulate. If I were to describe it, it looked like stagnant, muddy water flowing through a gutter. Even now, it was all so hilarious I could fall over laughing, but I didn't smile. On the contrary, my face was vacant and austere, like a no mask of frigid ice. And then, the darkness seeped into the innermost depth of my mind, and I was already parting with my self-restraint as a human being. I reached out and touched Keiichi's hair, matted with sweat and caked with blood. Keiichi whips his head away at once in disgust, as if he was staving off a housefly, and glares at me defiantly.
触るなこの鬼め返せミオンを返せよ俺の最高の友人だったミオンを返せ
Having lost liberty over his whole body, he continued to howl and cry as if he was spewing blood. I'm also realizing that the epilogue section where he thinks that it's Shion won't work if he's realized that this is Shion. I was supposed to have sold my soul to the devil and become a demon, but faced with such a bitter rejection, I felt the crumbled remnants of my emotions stir within me. Munch, crunch, munch, crunch, munch, crunch. My throat begins to itch, the crooks of my elbows, my wrists, and every other joint in my body begins to tingle and prickle, and I feel irrationally restless. The more the restlessness and irritation piled up, the more of a squalling, whimpering person beside me felt bothersome, revolting, so awful I could slaughter him right away. To be frank, until just now, I had no intention of killing Keiichi. Oh. Oh, okay. Right, and this... So in Numeneka I've been using spacebar to move forwards, but I forgot that this hides the dialogue box. I was truly ready to spare at least his life, if he guessed the right answer. That was the rule I had decided upon. Okay, I'll admit it. Just like Shion, I had also fallen in love with Keiichi. He was incredibly silly and good-natured, unbelievably warm-hearted and gentle. Talking to him made me feel contented. Besides, I even sympathized with him. Unlike the lot I'd dealt with so far, Keiichi was indeed just a victim, caught up in my selfish revenge drama. You can say that again. Now that my revenge against the Sonozaki family was almost complete, I didn't mind saving him. That may sound too convenient, but perhaps the human side of me that was fond of Keiichi wanted to save him, in order to seek his forgiveness for my actions. but I've changed my mind. Having witnessed Keiichi guess the right answer before my very eyes, my heart was suffused with a stinging, gaping, overpowering darkness, as if it were freezing over. Why? Why was Shion alone able to meet such a wonderful person? Toshi-kun could only make a vague distinction between me and Shion. Toshi-kun abandoned me and ran away. However, this Keiichi trusts Shion. He is defending Shion, whom he values as his best friend, by seeing through my lies. And as a result, he gave up on me. Detestable, maddening, despicable, enviable. So much so that I want to kill them. That's right. The moment he defended Shion, he became one of them. He's equally guilty, you low-life scum. I despise you, 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 you puffing piece of shit. Munch, crunch, munch, crunch, munch, crunch. Ah, what a nuisance. Shion's screams coming from the corner of the chamber were enjoyable before, but now they felt unbearably noisy and pissed me off. How about I just get rid of Shion first? I wanted to kill her after she had the most exquisite taste of anguish and terror, but now I could barely suppress the indiscriminate urge to slaughter whirling up within me. Keiichi was relentlessly yelling his protest towards me. His throat closed up eventually, and he gasped for breath, hoarsely continuing to demand Mion's return.
ケイちゃん、メイドの土産なんて気の利いたものじゃないけれど、どうしても知りたがっているようだから、一つだけ教えてあげるよ。
I am Mion?
私の中に鬼が宿ったのはずいぶん前。その鬼は、私を蝕み、強行に駆り立てようとした。だけれど、私はそれを理性で押さえつけた。鬼はそれで収まり、私はその鬼はどこかへ行ってしまったんだと思い込んでいた。でも、本当は違った。
No?
私の中から出て行ったんじゃなく、私の中で眠っていただけだったの。
Yes. When I learned about Satoshi-kun's disappearance, my ailing heart had crammed itself with rage to compensate for the despair. That was the limit of my insanity. I would never have snapped. Time had healed me, and my memories of Satoshi-kun were neatly wrapped up and pushed back into the back of my mind.
その鬼は、ある小さなことをきっかけに、また目覚めてしまった。それは、何に原因があったと思う？
It really was the smallest of the smallest things. Don't remember. I feel like this was in the other route as well, but I forget.
鬼の私が教えるのも変だけれど。
Is it love?
あんたが、
あ。
すべてをおかしくしてしまった元凶。
I mean, in a way I was right. A tear rolled down my cheek. That's right. Back then, if you hadn't given that doll to Mion, none of this would have happened.
ケイちゃんには理解できないだろうね。理解できなくて当然。だけどね、そこからドミノ倒しみたいに、パタパタパタと、いろんなものが倒れ始めて、収拾がつかなくなってしまった。
It's kind of funny though, because wasn't so. If you hadn't given that doll to Mion, none of this would have happened. But on the other hand, in the second chapter of Higurashi, didn't he not give the doll to Mion and the exact same thing happened?
はじめの小さな一つを倒したあなたに自覚がないのは当然だろうけど、あなたが元凶なの。
Oops. Back then, if Keiichi hadn't shown any affection, Shion wouldn't have been overjoyed. She wouldn't have been overjoyed and cheerfully boasted about him to me. As I was listening to her, I was reminded of Satoshi-kun. I became jealous of her for having someone she loved so close to her. It was a very small jealousy, but it had awakened the demon who was sleeping deep inside of me. After that, I just let the demon take over. The demon fed upon the copious amounts of sadness that I held for Satoshi-kun, and in return it committed heinous acts that Satoshi-kun himself would never be happy with, all in the name of avenging him. And now, the horrific events that followed were inviting me into the realm of demons that had no return.
そんな、嘘だろ。
自覚がないのは当然。でも、紛れもなく元凶なのはケイちゃん。
But we clearly know he isn't. Back then, if he hadn't chosen to give the doll to Mion, we could have arrived at a different future. No, that wasn't right. Wouldn't pinpointing Keiichi's small actions as the beginning be the height of transferring blame? I was implying such a silly thing had awoken the demon inside me. Even without Keiichi's act, it would have awoken anyway. At the end of the day, it was all my fault. I didn't fight the demon. I allowed it to reside in my soul, and I readily offered it to my heart. Yeah, I definitely need to start adding that reasoning to my D&D campaigns. It's like, oh, it's all because you did this. It's like, well, what if we didn't do that? Well, it would be all because we didn't do it. Keiichi didn't hide his tears. They were pouring down his cheeks. Maybe he was crying in my place, as I was not free to do so, having chosen to become a tearless demon. That is why I must go on, as the demon. There was no room for human emotions or hesitation anymore. And then, munch, crunch, munch, crunch, munch, crunch, snap. Shion's wails rasping like silk tearing apart, along with my screams of ecstasy. The last thing I heard were those everlasting reverberations here. Oh. June 1983. A case of serial disappearances occurred in Hinamazawa village, Shishibone City. The suspect is Shion Sonozaki. Allegedly, she abducted, imprisoned, and killed 4 Hinamazawa residents: Oryo Sonozaki, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi, Rika Furude, and Satoko Hojo, between June 19th and the 21st. Preliminary investigation into the incident was delayed at the time due to insufficient evidence, but by chance, the case was solved rather abruptly. On the morning of the 22nd, a patrol vehicle stationed outside the Sonozaki mansion heard screams from within, and personnel infiltrated the premises as an emergency measure. The suspect's missing elder sister, Mion Sonozaki, and 2 of her classmates, Keiichi Maibara and Reino Ryugu, were taken into custody. However, Keiichi Maibara, who had previously been lured into the crime scene, had sustained stab wounds perpetrated by the suspect. He was immediately transferred to an emergency unit, but they were diagnosed as minor injury. Having been the one with an utmost opportunity to engage in conversation with the suspect until the very end, he will be subject to interrogation once he has recovered from the shock. Furthermore, the apprehended suspect was found collapsed at a place approximately 2 meters away from Keiichi Maibara, where Keiichi Maibara was restrained, and sustained scratch wounds on her throat. She was also transferred to an emergency facility, but was pronounced dead at 13:48 on the 22nd. The official autopsy determines that the immediate cause of death was hemorrhagic shock. I've forgotten how to pronounce that. Due to excessive blood loss. Hair, pieces of skin, and blood of the 4 missing people, Oryo Sonozaki, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi, Rika Furude, and Satoko Hojo, were recovered from the hidden chamber that was discovered in the outbuilding basement of the Sonozaki family property where they were supposedly killed. It was concluded that the victims were assaulted and battered in chamber. The victims' bodies were discovered at the bottom of an old well, as per the testimony of the victim, Mion Sonozaki. In addition, investigations continue into any possible connection to the series of mysterious deaths in recent years, but no evidence of Shion Sonozaki's direct or indirect involvement has been found. There are still many obscurities to the motive behind the incident, and due to the extreme non-cooperation from the Sonozaki family and residents of Hinamizawa, a large amount of time will be required to clarify matters on this front. The local police, who are familiar with the region, offer that this may have been an internal lynching incident, as punishment for sacrilegious acts carried out against Hinamizawa's religious beliefs. It has been established that the incident is unique and rooted in the regional community beliefs, and a cautious investigation has been ordered by the prefectural police. We expect to gain valuable hints from the missing person and the suspect's sister, Mion Sonozaki, who was under confinement for the longest time period. But it was observed that she had sustained severe mental trauma from the incident, and her inquiry has been postponed in favour of her psychological and physical recovery. According to her primary care physician, although her condition is fairly serious, there is a strong prospect of recovery, and she is at present undergoing rehabilitation with support from her close friends. Several weeks have passed since then. After that incident, I was rescued by Oishi-san and his team, whom Rena had summoned. I had no other after effects aside from my consciousness that had been wiped white. If I were to have any at all, it would have to be the deep scars that had been left inside my heart. As I was being examined at the hospital, I was subjected to various queries from Oishi-san. I tried to answer him with whatever little I knew, but I had no idea if I met his expectations, and neither did I bear any responsibility to do so. From what I had heard, Shion had already lost too much blood by the time the police had arrived, and she had stopped breathing. They urgently called for an ambulance and took her to the clinic, but there was barely any time for first aid, and she took her last breath. The silver lining was that Mion, who had been captive in her cell, was safe, and taken into custody by the police. Up until the moment I lost consciousness, I was afraid that Shion may fly into a rage and murder Mion, but I was just glad we had managed to avoid the worst case scenario. Only, when Mion was rescued, she was emaciated and had sustained severe psychological trauma. Apparently, at the time of her rescue, she had been completely unable to respond to the police's questions. Right now, Mion is admitted at a large hospital in the vicinity and undergoing treatment for her psychological and physical injuries. In the beginning, when Rena and I went to visit, her eyes were downcast in desolation, and she looked completely worn out, a horrible state to be in. But despite it all, as of late, she is on her way to recovery, finally well enough to show us a few smiles. Of course, we've been careful not to bring up Satoko and Rika-chan, and especially Shion. The police later conducted an on-site investigation at the Sonozaki house's underground storehouse several days after the incident took place. Particularly, the well inside which Satoko and Rika-chan's bodies were disposed of by Shion was carefully surveyed by the prefectural forensics investigators, and true to Shion's testimony, the girls were discovered. Apparently, sediment had accumulated at the bottom of the well, and hence the discovery had taken several days. Along with Sadako and the other victims, skeletal remains that were several years, even several decades old, were found, but it's not like I would know much about that. Even I was once again summoned back to that place to assist with the crime scene investigation, but I didn't really help them find anything important. The Sonozaki family in Okonomiya, in other words, Mion and Shion's parents, came home every day several times along with many of their followers to formally apologize. No matter how much my parents refused, they kept piling up banknotes worth millions of yen as compensation. Once that money had piled up and reached a certain amount, the same day there came an envelope with a letter instead. I have no idea what was written in that letter, but my parents had discussed among themselves for 2 nights straight without consulting me, decided we would move away from Hinamizawa.
そっか。 引っ越しちゃうんだね。いつ？
来月の終わり。ひなみ沢には結局、半年も居つかなかったことになるな。
寂しくなるね。
From memory in the other path, I don't think Mion survives, and so it's just Rena left by herself.
きっとみーちゃんも悲しむよ。
Don't remember. I feel like Shion pushed Mion down the stairs, down the ladder into the well.
悪い。
I forget.
ミオンにも、正直話すべきか、迷ってる。
Once Rena heard me say that, she strongly insisted. I had to tell her, no matter what.
確かに、今みーちゃんにそれを告げるのは酷なのかもしれない。でも、ケイチくんが黙っていなくなっちゃう方が、きっとみーちゃんは辛いと思う。
That being said, this also feels familiar, so I'm not sure.
だから、一緒に話しに行こう。ね。
ああ、そうだな。
ああ、そっか。ケイちゃん、ひなみ沢からいなくなっちゃうんだ。
Even though she had heard it from me, Mion whispered those words sadly. But she didn't seem that surprised. Surely she had mentally prepared herself for this outcome somewhere inside her heart.
すまん。けど俺、いつかひなみ沢に戻ってくるつもりだ。約束する。
いいよ、無理しなくても。ここに来ても、きっとケイちゃんにいいことなんて何もないんだから。
みーちゃん。
Both Rena and I wanted to say it wasn't so. But, after such a tragic incident, what verbal consolation could we offer that would help? To Mion, who had suffered much greater pain than we ever had. So, we just stood there, unable to say anything, just swallowing in silence.
私も、東京に行こうかな。
え？
来週退院できるらしいんだけど、ここにいてもいいことあんまりないし、東京でなくても、どこか遠く、私のことも、ひなみ沢のことも知らない土地に行きたい。やり直せるなんて、都合のいいことは考えてないけど、もう全部、投げ出したいよ。
ミオン。
Mion had been forced to carry the name of the next head of the Sonozaki family, and representative of 3 families, all due to a small misunderstanding. Despite feeling uncertain and weary about her unplanned responsibility, she had nevertheless been earnest and given her all to fulfill her duties. But to think all of that had been concluded in such a manner. It was such a tremendous loss that it's almost a surprise she hasn't completely lost her mind. Who can really blame Mion for anymore for making such a faint-hearted remark? And so I wanted to devote even a little bit of my remaining time here for her.
そうだな、ミオン。一緒にどこか、行くか。
え？どこへ？
決まってるだろ。旅行だよ。俺がここにいられる期間は、もうあまりないけど、だったらせめて、少しでもいい思い出を取り返しておかないとな。東京はちょっと遠いけど、大きな、どうだ？
どうって言われても。
それとってもいいと思うな。行っておいでよ、みーちゃん。ね。
けど、レナ、一緒に来てくれないの？
After hearing that, even I grew puzzled. Hadn't I suggested all 3 of us hang out together?
だって、レナは馬になんて蹴られたくないもん。だから、2人っきりでどうぞ。あ、お土産買ってきてくれると嬉しいな。はうー。
Boom! Mion blushes vigorously. I was slow to react because I didn't understand what Ren was getting at. But at seeing Mion's face imbued with colour after a long time, my heartbeat grew faster for a moment. No, it wasn't what I implied when I suggested the idea, but depending on the point of view, wouldn't this be an invitation to a date?
いかん。ちょっと調子に乗りすぎたかも。
Indeed, after seeing it that way, I was overcome with embarrassment. But there was no way I could back out after coming this far. Gah! This was all for Mion's sake. Put yourself together, Keiichi, my brother.
どうだ、ミオン。あ、もちろん医者と親御さんにはちゃんと了解を取るつもりだぜ。あんまり無理はさせないつもりだから、考えておいてくれよ。
わかった。考えておく、ね。
I can't help but feel that both of them are gonna die.
みーちゃんが久々に可愛いよ。嬉しいな、嬉しいな。はうはうはう。
After that, we spent the day talking about harmless stuff that happened at school or in the neighborhood until it was evening. I felt like Mion had regained some of her spirit, and acted a bit like she used to, so I was happy. After a few days, Mion had contacted me to say she was okay with my plan. And after spending a few more days to convince my folks and Mion's parents, we set off on a day's trip to a metropolis that had one of those bullet train stations.
うわーしばらく見ないうちに、ここってすごく大きくなったんだね。
As soon as she stepped out of the station, Mion set eyes on the scenery sprawling with people and cars. She shared her feelings and excitement as she looked on admiringly. From what I'd heard, unless it's on very important business, Mion rarely gets to leave the village, let alone come out to a big city like this. Because of that, everything she saw looked fresh and fascinating to her, and she pranced about merrily, almost like a child.
ねえねえ、ケイちゃん。これからどこに行くの？
そうだな。ミオンの好みから考えて、あそこはどうだ？
The place I was pointing to, one I had checked out in advance, was a massive, beautifully decorated game arcade that towered over a corner of a station shopping square.
くぅ、なかなか盛大に遊び回ったな。
面白かった。あんなにゲームで遊んだの、本当に久しぶりだよ。
As I sat down on the bench, Mion was gleefully draining her can of juice with a huge smile. That expression was unlike the gloomy one Mion had worn at the hospital. Next to me was the Mion I knew well. Earlier, we'd had a blast, vowing to conquer all the game consoles in the vicinity, made quite the ruckus, without caring about the people watching. Mion was enjoying herself, playing on consoles she wasn't used to, and had gone on a rampage, laughing out loud, getting worked up, and challenging me to matches. Though I couldn't help thinking about what ifs as I was playing with her. About how much fun it would have been if it only weren't just the two of us, but also Rena, Satoko, and Rika-chan as well. I'm sure Mion must have been thinking the same thing, which was also why I outdid myself, making so much noise, trying to battle for loneliness, when I had realized...
なあ、ミオン。
Loneliness, when I had realized.
何ケイちゃん。
With faint drops of sweat coating her forehead, Mion turned to face me with a broad smile. Mion's cheerfulness was most likely just her being considerate towards me for having brought her here. That was so, and I needed to do the same for her.
お前、全部初めてって言ってたけど、それ本当か？初プレイで2台もハイスコアに名前入れるなんて、とんでもない実力だぜ。
ち4台の間違いだよ、ケイちゃん。こういうのはセンスと勘、そして動体視力がものを言うのさ。普段の鍛錬を怠らなかった成果だよ。むしろケイちゃんはアドバンテージをひっくり返されたことを恥と思うべきだね。
おいおい、ちょっと待てよ。エアホッケーの時とか、あれ何なんて後ろを指さして、顔を向けた瞬間打ち込んできたのは反則だろ。まったく、容赦のないやつだぜ。
勝てば官軍、負ければ賊軍だよ。
For the time being, it's alright if her well-being is a front. All I hope for is that someday this becomes real and she recovers her old cheerful self.
いやいや、それにしてもゲーセンも雰囲気が変わったよな。少し前ならタバコ臭くて暗いイメージだったけど、家族連れで遊びに来る人も結構いたからちょっと驚いたぜ。
そうだね。やっぱたまにはこういうのも楽しいよね。あ、今何時ぐらい
？5時くらいかな。
ああ、じゃあ夕食まであと少しだね。どこかで食べて帰る？
そうだな。ファーストフードでハンバーガーなんてどうだ？
おお、いいね。
I do feel like I vaguely remember this as well, so maybe Mion did survive in the other time?
あ、その前にちょっと失礼。
I also remember this part. Mion said that and stood up from the bench. I found it odd for a minute, but then I understood her intention and...
店にもトイレはあるぞ。
Instead of a reply, I had empty cans thrown at me. Mion stuck her tongue out at me and left in a hurry. And after I watched her retreating figure, I plopped back down on the bench and looked up at the sky. The sky was pure blue and crystal clear, and it felt amazing. Everything seemed to be glowing, bathed in the brilliant summer sun. It was a good thing we came here. Mion also seemed to show signs of recovery.
そうだな。
I think maybe in the other one it was actually Shion, maybe that had taken her place.
なんなら今度はいっそ東京にでも誘ってみるか。
It would be cheaper if she stayed at our new place there, but I feel like our parents may be concerned for a while. If we still need some more time to go back to we still needed some more time to go back to how it was.
そうなると泊まる場所も探しておかないとな。あとは。
Why, hello there.
ああ、こんにちは。
Hmm?
いやー、ごめんケイちゃん。トイレ人いっぱいでさ。あ、結構待たせちゃったみたいだから飲み物買ってきた。どっちがいい？あれ？ケイちゃん寝ちゃったの？もう、しょうがないな。
Is he dead?
女の子とのデート中に居眠りなんてエチケット違反だよ。
My two thoughts are either he's dead or he's gonna say you're not Mion.
ケイちゃん？もう、いつまで寝てるんだよ。ほら、起きて。ケイちゃん？はっ！
What happened? Hmm? Huh. I'm gonna go look through the good end again. I hope you've all enjoyed whatever that was. Let me know any feedback you have in the comments. And